Previously in part 2.
To a class, I can't give you all this information.
Every individual that you work with, are they individual themselves and how they respond to it?
You swam the Thames Marathon.
I did.
How was that?
Yeah. I know you were talking about it and saying about running and everything and the aerobic side. Yes, it's important to have that aerobic capacity. Yes, you need to get this heart rate going. And that was my sort of thing when I did I borrowed my daughter's Apple Watch just to kind of go, probably should just find out if my heart's okay while I'm doing this. I just borrow her watch and just see what's my heart doing. And my heart rate was sitting at marathon speed at around 135.
Wow.
Really?
That's seriously low.
Yeah.
That's really low.
135 to 140, that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's my and I'm roughly around about, if I'm in a pool, I'm doing about 80 lengths with the turning and the traffic in about 35 minutes. So I do about 80 laps in 35 minutes. So I'm quite a quick swimmer, which really upsets a lot of men, I've noticed over the years.
Whilst you overtake them and they get
Whilst
really
I
messed.
overtake them.
running down the side and jumping back in at the far end.
Very much so. The women are like, yeah, you go. And the men are like, no, the ego has landed. She's not getting past me. So that's why I like the lake.
Yeah.
You don't have any of that.
It's
You've
just
got
you
your
and
own
your
space.
mind.
It's you, mind, the sky. Many things play into lake swimming. It is an unknown every time you get in the lake. Is the lake choppy? Is the air temperature cold? You've got all of that going on. You know, I mean, one day we went, and I'm in at sort of 7ish, so it's just getting light. So you come up as the sun's rising, and that is just phenomenal.
I think in all these podcasts, I always come back to studies, and I'm like, if it's backed by studies, if it's backed by people, I'll run with it. And research in the environmental science and technology highlights the benefits of cold water swimming with a 40% reduction in stress markers and a 20% improvement in mood following regular cold water immersion and cold water swimming.
Dopamine. You feel it, and it rises as the day goes on. You know, it's not like you get hit and then crash. You get your hit of your dopamine and you can feel it staying with you. You feel phenomenal, and you're getting that from the cold water tanks. But it's even more when you get in the open water. And you don't have to be a good swimmer. You can just tootle around. You know, nobody cares.
Give it a go.
Do you feel like you get used to it in a way? Because there's a guy at my gym who I talk to, he ice baths pretty much every day. And he's turned to cold water swimming because he feels like he got so used to the ice baths. The cold water swimming's really different, and he gets that big hit from it as well, which is way bigger than actually sitting in an ice bath. That's what he said.
I would say that all day long, but I'm a confident swimmer, so it's easy for me to say that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting so much out of that. You know, an hour or so in the lake, I mean, I could conquer the world. Literally, you come out, you're like, yeah. You know, it really is. I mean, so I used to get out in the early days, and literally I'd go into convulsions of you've got to be quick.
I get that out of the ice bath sometimes.
Okay, that I don't get that anymore. I can take, even when it's 8 degrees, 6 degrees. What do you know what temperature you're?
The lowest I've been in was 3.
Okay.
And then at the moment it's like 9 or 10.
Okay.
So 9 or 10 doesn't really do anything for me. I was in there for like six minutes the other day.
Yeah.
And like I got out and I was a bit like, I feel good mentally that I've got in.
Yeah.
But when I was at 3 and it was like frosty out and I was sitting there like, oh, I think I might die and I'm getting in this. I was like, get out. I came out and I was like, woo! Like, so full of energy, and I miss that.
You're playing with that edge. Does that make sense? There's an edge you're playing with in your mind as much as anything. It's like, well, can I? And I know that when I'm staying in around sort of 6-8 degrees and I'm staying in for 40 minutes and I've got my face in, remember that, okay? I've got my face in the water.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Vagal I was going to say that as well.
You know, the whole kind of vagal tone. If you're working sort of polyvagal theory, and I'm sure have you had a sort of look at polyvagal theory?
I haven't.
Okay, I'll give you some pointers on that.
Perfect.
Then you'll start picking up. And I say to people, even if you can't do cold showers, cold therapy, splash your face with cold water. It starts a process of getting used to it. You know, everyone can do that. They can all manage that. Then try maybe sitting just in a bath, even if you haven't got an ice tank. Just run the cold tap. It'll probably be around about 9 degrees. Put your feet in the bath and just sit with your feet in the bath, and then just start splashing, and then maybe start to slide in a bit lower, bit by bit, or if you want to go full tilt, just get in, you know. But then they'll probably go, oh, you know, and that can put people off. So it's a real, you know, Each individual needs a different process to kind of go with this. But I would say the cold water, I mean, I haven't had a cold really, and I haven't been ill or anything in a good 6-7 years.
Really?
Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on this as well. I was going to bring it up earlier in the breathwork section, but I think it's a good time to do it. Is you also have done 40 years of Tai Chi?
Yes.
And is it Shiatsu?
Shiatsu massage, yes.
All
feeds in. So the Tai Chi, again, I mean, I don't work, my Tai Chi practice is very limited now because, again, I move so much more into yoga. But it all meets, it's all blended. It isn't, that's what I'm saying. I work with like a Tantra philosophy, but I'll bring in my knowledge of working with the elements, 5-element theory, and the whole meridian system. So if we're doing yoga postures, I know which meridians that we're accessing. So it might be stomach, bladder, kidneys, large intestine. So that's information on top of all the other stuff as well. And then there's the elements they correspond to and the emotions, and it goes on and on and on. And most people don't know this, but traditional Chinese medicine grew out of Ayurveda. Okay, so Ayurveda, which is the sort of Indian medicine, which is backing up, if you like, the yoga theory, traditional Chinese medicine grew out of that. So there are 5 elements. They're slightly different between the Indian tradition and the Chinese, because look at their climates. Look at the climate in China, the climate in India. So they're responding to their climates as well. So marrying that all up, if we're doing a class, I'll be looking at maybe the movement aspect. So I don't spend a lot of time doing things like too many handstands. I'm much more about people need to be grounded. So get them in their legs. So that's my Tai Chi background. So strength here, grounding, that sense of being able to connect to the earth, I feel is more important than being able to walk on your hands.
Is that
do you know what I mean?
Is that going outside with like barefoot to connect
you
to the
can do all of that.
That's what Liver King says. Have you heard of Liver King?
I am aware of it.
Less said the better.
Liver King scrapped, right?
Yeah. Is he cancelled or is he back now? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
there's some rogue stuff that goes on.
But that's what I'm saying, and that's why, like, you've got to really pick your way through this. This is a minefield. So people coming in, that's why I've never had websites. I reluctantly joined Instagram. It was like, my daughter was like, well, Mum, welcome to the club. And I was like, ugh. It was a bit like that. I thought, okay, just embrace it and try and have some fun with it. It's not my sort of, it's not my natural kind of space, but I know it's essential now. I'm not, but I still don't have a website. Still don't have one.
So it's more word of mouth.
All word of mouth.
That's the best thing, though.
All word of mouth. I've built my whole reputation and everything on word of mouth, and just being in the early days, get out there, show people, teach people, let that be your face to the world. Let them experience rather than tell them, oh, this will do this. Well, come and experience it. And then tell me how you feel afterwards. And if you're still here, if someone turns and goes, look, I just really want to look good in a bikini, great, just get on the mat. And if you're still there 10 years later, that's not the reason you're still there. Do you know what I mean? It's point. That. Yeah. I don't care. There's no prejudice as to why you want to do a practice. None. And there shouldn't be. It's for everybody. I don't care if you've, obviously certain situations are going to make it really difficult for me to work with people with disabilities in a regular class. But there's chair yoga. There's so much out there for people. And find good teachers, because they'll know other really good teachers. That's what I would say. Speak to teachers. They know other teachers. Don't necessarily randomly pick someone. Their social media profile, they've got X amount of thousands of followers. They must be good. Yeah. That means that they're spending a hell of a long time putting stuff out on social media. What are they teaching?
Or buying it as well. You never know these days.
Well, this is what I'm saying. So you know pretty quickly if someone's authentic. Are they doing what they say they're doing? And are they back? I don't, if I do a training or if I do anything, and they know this in my group, they'll sort of go, oh, what have you been doing? I said, I'll let you know in a couple of years. Because that's how long it's going to take me to integrate and embody that teaching into myself, so that I've practiced whatever it is, be it the meditations I've been learning. I can't teach you something that I've just learned, because my teacher would say, if you teach something you haven't embodied, you've given it away and you've lost it forever. So therefore, embody it. Be authentic. Practice. Be humble. Because you owe that to yourself as much as the people that you teach, you know?
I want to pick your brain also.
Oh, it's a bit old, so...
I'll do it anyway. So I think there's a huge sort of Asian influence in everything that you do. Is it because they're all interlinked, whether it be Indian, Japanese, Chinese?
all of it.
Where does your fascination for it all come from?
I went travelling in 1988, pre-mobile phones, Google, all of that kind of stuff. And I bought a one-way ticket with my then partner to Thailand. And
Amazing.
Sort of went, right, where should we, you know,
Where
now what?
Yeah.
You know, and there was none of this round the world ticket. We just bought a one-way ticket in 1988. So it was pre-globalization. Arrived in Thailand. I'd always had a fascination for the East. I'd been studying Tai Chi. And in those days, it was just a far-off land. And I know this sounds ridiculous in today's living, with everything at our fingertips. But we were seeing things. I was going... In Japan, I was going, they have restaurants with conveyor belts and the food comes around and you take it off this conveyor belt and people are going, what? Whoa. Yeah, it's called sushi now. You do know what I mean? You know?
Mad, isn't it?
And I was going, I'm working in a karaoke bar. And my friends are going, but you can't sing. I was like, no, it's great, isn't it? And then I'm singing and then my mum's going, but my mum's going, but you can't sit. I'm like, I know. It's called being very Genki deska. You know, nobody cared. You know, it was just like you
just did what worked.
You were just sort of doing things. I mean, you know, you probably didn't have a work permit, but never mind. You know, but we were doing street miming. We were doing all sorts of things because you were just trying to earn money. Literally, we were busking on the streets in Tokyo. I was in Japan. I was in the Philippines and all over, just getting one-way tickets. And we were arriving in places like, I mean, it's well known now, Boracay in the Philippines. When I got there, you had to get a prop plane, which I thought I was going to die on, actually. I've never been so scared. And I was on my own, you know, at this point. So prop plane down there, then a jeepney, then a boat ride. Then you had to wait for the tide to drop, put your rucksack on your back, run across. You know, there was literally, it was like a whole day to get down to one of these islands. It was 1 kilometre wide and 7 kilometres long. No electricity, no roads, nothing.
That's awesome.
Nothing. You were just...
Off the grid.
Totally off grid.
Yeah.
So, like, my daughter's just been in Brazil. She was like, well, I'm in this Airbnb and I can't find the washing machine. So I'm using Google Translate because everything's in Portuguese. So I can go up to this zone and I'm just standing there going, wow, put the phone down, work it out, use this, you know, but... That's the world. It's a different world, now.
Yeah, exactly.
So we had a bum bag. That's what they were called back in the day. You had your bum bag and you had traveller's checks. And you're going, what's that? You didn't have anything. You had your passport and your bum bag and your traveller's checks, and that was it. And you just navigated. If I left Thailand and I went to Japan, how did anyone contact me? It was called the GPO, General Post Office. You tell I'm in Tokyo, send my letters to the GPO in Tokyo. Annabel, GPO, Tokyo. I'd go in there, pigeonhole, there'd be a letter.
And you said Thailand there, you learnt the Tai Chi in Thailand?
No, I studied Tai Chi here.
Oh, studied it here,
I studied here in London, and from when I was 16, so it was a couple of years later, then I went travelling. I experienced shiatsu in Japan.
Shiatsu in Japan, yeah.
And then came back and studied shiatsu here. By that time, unfortunately, my Tai Chi master had decided to go and live in France, which is really inconvenient, but there we are.
So you went to France?
No. So I was always moving around all these different modalities, but they all feed into one another. Yeah. None of them are separate. None of them are. They all kind of piggyback off one another. And
it's so unique.
Yeah, but...
You've done all that as well. And obviously learning all that now, must be probably one of the only people around in your field who've pretty much done all those experiences. I mean, wouldn't have known at the time either, but they would have led to what you're doing now and stuff, which is just crazy. It's so cool to think about, because we'll be doing stuff now that we'll probably look back on when we're like 50 and be like, doing that made us get here, and it's just really cool.
Well, the true nature of vinyasa krama, which everyone goes, what do you teach? And they go, I teach vinyasa. Okay. I sort of go, okay. Vinyasa means to step into. So it's one step, stepping into the next. It's a step into. So everything you do in a practice leads you into the next, leads you into the next. So that's why when you're sequencing, so, you know, people in my class will know this, without fail, I class plan every single week. Because when I'm class planning, I'm thinking, right, I've got this one in the class, that one in the class. I know at this point they can't do this, they can't. I don't sort of turn on the screen and go, right, what am I going to do? And off we go. It's planned. And I've done that class plan. So I know how it's made me feel, where I need to tweak it, where I need to make more breaks. How, even after all these years, then I'll stay with that class plan all week, tweak it here and there, because I'm watching people going, no, that didn't quite flow as I'd liked it to have done. And like today, so in this week's practice, we've done our breath work at the beginning. I've done a moon practice this week, so the intention is to work into the mind. So the practice, therefore, is very stabilizing, very steadying. We've used mantra in the practice, a lovely mantra called Soham, which works on third eye, to get people's minds as clear and as stable and steady as possible. Then they go into Shavasana, and then they'll come up and do a seated meditation based on the principles that they've been building all the way through their practice to do. So it's what we'd call a complete practice. And you've got, therefore, breath work, asana, mantra, mudra, meditation. So it's a lot, isn't it? You know,
There's
so
loads.
that's where you have to plan it. You've got to be really, really, and when you're on screen,
No wonder my mum loves it.
I
always just thought it was stretching.
No,
Generally,
I
because
know.
it's her thing. It's not
Yes.
like she'll go out and be like, "This is it." Like that's her thing.
Yeah.
It's like just like rugby was my thing. I didn't go
Yeah.
home and be like, "Mum, like I ran this line and then
Yeah.
we made this play," and it's
Yeah.
just that's her thing. So I never knew what it actually entailed, everything, which is really cool to actually hear. No wonder she loves it.
Yeah,
She's
well,
literally
I'm
like,
glad.
even when we're on holiday, she's like, "Nope, like leave me alone. An hour I'm going to do my
so
yoga."
She'll
and
go
stuff.
and do her own practice.
She does loads
now.
of stuff.
Fantastic. You see,
Even if it's just like
I
talking
don't
about
like to
him.
cry.
Yeah.
Okay.
She loves doing everything now. It's really cool.
Okay.
It's really. I completely see why.
Okay. So you see, this is the real nugget for me, is when people say, I'm doing my own practice and I feel I know enough and I have enough, you know, embodiment of everything that we've done to feel confident to just roll out my mat and just do something. Then I'm like, job done. So I didn't know that.
That's amazing.
I got a couple more things.
Yes.
Is we talked about a study. It just popped in my head when we were talking before. We did talked about a study like a few episodes ago about battling depression, and when we said it was like yoga, men in yoga had a really big effect on their mental health, like battling depression.
Yep.
But yoga, jogging, walking, and Tai Chi, which we touched on just then as well, were some of the best ways naturally to battle depression.
Couldn't agree more.
Why do you reckon that is? Because obviously I didn't know anything about Tai Chi before looking it up, but
I think
now I know about your side of yoga.
You're making most people. Well, it depends, isn't it? Depression can just be so many different things. There's what I call a more anxious depression, and there's more I'm on the sofa and I'm not moving depression, or I've gone into complete black space. Yeah, I mean it's so individual, isn't it? Well, first of all, they're connecting with themselves. There's the left and right brain hemisphere. So if you're working alternate nostril breathing, for instance, as you breathe in through the left nostril, we call that the moon side. And if you breathe in through the right nostril, you'll call that the solar side, which is the sun. So you've heard the term hatha, hatha yoga. Ha is sun and tha is moon. So you're balancing those two forces. So again, if you are, if someone's out of balance, you see, we kind of talk about this sweet spot of like, we've got to be happy and peaceful all the time. It's not possible. You're constantly doing this. But what you're doing is, if you do go down, you know the tool set, and it will be so individual. How can I come back into a sense of regulation? So what might work for you won't work for you, and vice versa. So that's why developing a practice gives you the opportunity to go, well, that box breathing's really good for me, but weirdly it didn't work this time. But then I've got this technique. Let me try that. Let me try this. Let me try that. I've got insomnia, or I can't get up. I can't wake up and get going in the morning. What is it? So you're being given different skill sets to find out what works for you, like a toolkit. And you can go, I'll pick that one today. I need that spanner.
Interesting. So what would you say to someone, say, who's like me, who is always in their own head and they find it really hard to switch off? There are people listening to this and watching this who will be, I couldn't possibly do yoga because I can't switch it off. Or does it give you the tools to be able to do that?
I feel you there.
Yeah.
I feel you there.
Yeah.
Okay, so the practice that I work with, I will keep your mind very active all the time.
Okay.
You've heard me say mantras, mudras, all of this. So when you're in a practice with me, you will be you'll be going, what'd she say? You'll get lost in your own mind if you don't follow. So what it's doing is the breathing. So, for instance, I might say, inhale, take the arms up over the head and chant, so. I've got to do that. I've got to do that. So your mind's already got to be very active, okay? So you won't be able to space out or whatever because I'm giving you a lot to do. And even if we go into meditation, I don't just say sit there and stare at a candle flame and kind of go, I'll be going, right. So the breath comes in. Now exhale in every sort of 2. So if we, like for instance today, we did an inhale 6 and exhale 6. At the end of every 2 counts on that 6 exhale, pause. You got right, pause.
So to actively think about the whole way through.
So I'm harnessing your mind. Okay, I mean there's different sections of the mind as well in yoga that we talk about. So the buddhi is the most, which is from Buddhism, is the more discerning, like the sort of sword that cuts through all the chatter, and you hear limbic, frontal lobe cortex. There's yoga language to that as well. Which feeds in. So for instance, yoga nidra, alpha, beta, gamma, theta waves. How can we get people's minds to drop in? So there's so much that if only people would get beyond that, it's just stretching, or I've just got to be still. If they came into a class and go, God, there's a lot going on in here. Actually, I'm kind of a bit, I just thought it was all about my hamstrings.
Overstimulated when you actually get it.
It's going to make your mind active.
Yeah.
But then what it's going to do is then, due to that, you're not having to think about all your own. Your mind isn't rushing or highly kind of over-processing all the stuff of the day. You've got other things to think about that are hopefully going to anchor your mind. It's going to make it active and then anchored. Okay, so it's like anything. Words and language are really difficult to explain and experience. So you're going beyond the mind, but you're using the mind to go beyond the mind.
Yeah.
That's insane. It's been amazing chat. I'm gonna end it on this, and this is my favourite question, which we do in a lot of the podcasts, is if you could give one piece of advice, something you've learned over the years, something that's always stuck with you that you'd like to give to the younger generation, what would that piece of advice be?
Go to a class and keep going until you find the teacher that resonates with you, because that's the key. They'll unlock you. The teacher has which puts a lot of power on the teacher, and I don't mean it like that, but it's a case of like whoever they are energetically, they have the potential to maybe be that mirror that you need to shine back on yourself. Simple as that, really.
That's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure.